Now, every parent has problems with their children, but what happens when these problems continue? With us this morning to talk about the do's and don'ts of handling disobedient or challenging children is our parenting mentor, Sheila O'Malley. Good morning, Sheila. Now, there's a couple of things we don't have a huge amount of time, but there's a couple of things that we need to focus on. There's two very important points. All parenting starts with a parent, happy child. Once we start to look at ourselves and do something about that or change ourselves, then everything else changes.
Yeah, that's it. And I would say from all the work that I've done, that's the biggest surprise for parents, that when they change, everything changes. So they come into you about the problem child, but in fact, when they realise that so much of the time it's how they're interacting with the child is then creating the child's response. But how they're interacting with the child is very much a result of actually where they are themselves. Yeah. Exactly. So self-care.
And of course, you say, do you value and take care of yourself? You ask a parent and they go, no, I'm too busy taking care of them.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So what we're saying is, no, prioritise you. That the idea is the more care I show myself, the more I can show my child. So if I'm kind of gentle and nurturing and accepting of self, I'm actually going to mirror that out to the child.
In other words, have a life, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Take care of the emotional side of yourself.
Yes.
Social self.
Yeah.
There's a creative side, don't neglect that.
Yeah.
Behavioural side. The intellectual side, because you do need intellectual nourishment, and you know that you're in trouble when you go to a restaurant for the one night out with the hubby and the waiter comes along and you go, ta-ta, you spent too much time with the children.
That's it, you certainly did, yeah, absolutely.
So, and they're very simple. So in other words, you need to get selfish, which a lot of parents would be very reluctant to do.
Well, now, you know, to be honest with you, you have to stop you there. In fact, it's the most unselfish thing to do, to value yourself and accept yourself.
I know, what I'm saying is that they will feel, but isn't that selfish?
That's right, and that's something you have to get over.
Okay. Fine. So start thinking of yourself, get yourself in good shape, and then obviously, and a lot of other things will fall into place. Temper tantrums, don't reward them, don't give in.
Yeah.
Effectively,
yeah.
What you're saying.
I think people do one of two things. The parent either gives in or loses control. Gives in, you get more temper tantrums. If you lose control, you feel very, very bad, as you and I already talked about, and you end up, you know, best thing is just to apologise. What you try to do is, and it's much easier said than done, I'm not saying it's easy, is you stay separate to it and just recognise there's a tantrum happening here, the child is expressing frustration, and just let them do that. And then in a very calm way, model calmness. You know, I'm happy to talk to you when you calm down. You know, I won't respond to that behaviour. All these I messages, which are very calming, very mature behaviours. You're staying separate. You might have to cross the room, because if you don't, something very bad may happen. Take a few deep breaths and mind yourself, and it'll pass very quickly.
Okay, you were saying that you have a story or a kind of an analogy that illustrates all of this and that maybe contains more advice than...
Well, yeah, I just think coming up to Christmas, we're spending more time with the children. And, you know, I had a couple who came to me very recently and had real problems with their child, you know, 9-year-old boy or whatever, and real problems, very difficult, and really came to find out more consequences, more punishments, more sanctions. And listened to what I had to say and probably didn't believe a word of it, to be honest with you. But went home, and one thing on the journey home in the car struck with them, which was, if what they've been doing hasn't been working, they've nothing to lose by trying something different. So that week they did 3 different things. 1, they ignored the misbehaviour of the child. 2, they spent the week catching the child being good, noticing improvements. And 3, on a daily basis, they carved out, you know, the famous 8 minutes a day is all you need for a child to feel loved and secured. Came back the next week for a session of challenging behaviours. I was terrified and walked in the door early, which was a bad sign, to tell me that the change was incredible. That something had lit up inside the child, which I would like to think is the light of love that was mirrored by them, and the child was reflecting it back. And the other positive thing was there had been huge sibling rivalry because the child was really jealous of the younger sibling. And now, because the parents were investing time and love in him, they said not only has his behaviour dramatically improved, but in addition, the sibling rivalry we've experienced has just gone way, way down, including, you know, the younger brother or sister in the games, etc., etc. So I'm talking about that, you know, it's a different approach, positive parenting, but it definitely works.
Well, I suppose, what does it say, the sign of madness is doing exactly the same things but expecting a different result.
Yeah, and don't we do that a lot?
We do that all the time. So if it's not working, why keep doing it?
That's it.
Change. What have you got to lose? The other thing, of course, is that a lot of parents, particularly with Santi children,
Yeah.
and children who are still in the throes of the magic of it,
Yeah.
the children are going to start getting hyper and they're going to start getting excited.
Yeah.
And it can be very irritating, be very hard to deal with, but it is part of the magic of this. And God knows, I mean, so much of it is being eroded. We need to kind of preserve that, no matter how difficult and trying it can be.
Well, definitely. You know, I think the funny thing is, if you think about I think what matters to kids at Christmas time is, you know, decorating the tree, the special times with families, looking at old photographs, the old cine movies or whatever, the DVDs or whatever. I think it's family time, having the granny in, relatives visiting other people. In fact, these are the real treasures for children at Christmas, and too much of the time we get caught up in maybe the rest of it. But what I'm saying is that I think what they like is spend time with us. And it is a time that we have a bit more time, and it's an opportunity.
Yeah, and accept that they're going to be a bit more hyper than normal, and accept that they're going to be a bit louder than normal, and there's going to be a bit more.
Yeah, but get out and have the walk. Get out and have the walk, and let them get rid of their energy, and try and get out every day. And in other words, you know, you're not only spending time with them, but in a good situation where you're out and about, and you know, they're getting rid of their excess energy.
Well, look, if they were sitting around the place going, I don't care, then you'd be a lot more worried, wouldn't you? Mind you, that comes when they're teenagers.
Without a doubt. And if all else fails, they can come to a parenting course in January, because I'll be setting up again in January.
Okay, well, we'll give more details of that, obviously, as we get closer to the time. And by the way, Sheila, thank you very much for the time being, Sheila. Now, Sheila will be answering questions online at 12 o'clock today, so if you've got a parenting query for you, text AM and follow that with the comment or question to 53121. You can also email irelandm@tv3.